Jai Hind friends, I'm Major Gaurav Arya and you're watching the latest news of the day. In the ongoing SEO summit, which is happening remotely, Prime Minister Modi squarely put the blame of cross-border terrorism on Pakistan without naming the country. He said there are certain countries that promote cross-border terrorism as a matter of state policy. Now, this puts Pakistan in a very uncomfortable position because wherever Pakistan goes, deny as it may, Pakistan is accused of terrorism by India, and India has every cause and every logic to do so. It was, after all, Pakistan which has been put in the Financial Action Task Force grey list for the fourth consecutive time. They got out of the grey list only last year. So this is something that the world must know about Pakistan, and Pakistan needs to be exposed at every single platform, because for too long Pakistan has used terrorism as a tool of their foreign policy. But there is another angle here which the Prime Minister did not speak about, but it was easy to decipher for anyone who's been following this news for some time. China is sitting there. You have President Xi Jinping on the screen, and it is China which is blocking India's efforts to designate Sajid Mir and Maulana Masood Azhar as global terrorists and sanction them through the United Nations Security Council. It is China that is blocking India's effort. Now, why would China want to block the designation of terrorists as terrorists? What is China's play here? Either China is supporting terrorism directly. Otherwise, China could have very well said and taken a step back and said, we don't care. We don't care about these terrorists. It does nothing for China. But China is doing it because China actually supports Pakistan, which supports terrorism. And whatever weakens India, China thinks it will strengthen China. That is China's logic. And it was good of the Prime Minister, it was proper of the Prime Minister to put it out on the table in front of the world to say that Pakistan is a terror state, Pakistan is a state that sponsors terror, and Pakistan needs to be called into account. In another news, we've heard about how the Khalistanis attacked the consulate, the Indian consulate at San Francisco, and set fire to it. Thankfully, the fire department people of San Francisco, they came and they, the fires were put out. But here's what, you have heard a lot about this in the past 1 or 2 days. You've been hearing about this news, but I think there is something that the Indian government needs to take into account. How do we respond to this situation? This has happened and that has happened. You know what has happened. The media has told you enough and more about it. But how do we as a nation respond? And I think what we need to do is, American laws are very strict regarding this. First of all, we need to understand that any consulate or any embassy is sovereign Indian territory. Nobody can just go marching in. We need to have these places duly protected by our armed soldiers. The US Marines do that for all the embassies and all the consulates across the world. So we need to have a special tri-services unit, Army, Navy and Air Force, together to designate a force specially meant for this embassy duty, and they should be posted all over the world, because that is sovereign Indian territory. Let these soldiers and at least one officer be posted across the world who will look after the security of the embassy. It's very important. How do you think the Americans will respond if people try to storm the American embassy anywhere in the world? The Marines will respond with fire. They have the authority to fire and discharge their weapons at anybody whom they deem to be a threat, because that American embassy or American consulate is deemed to be, it's sovereign American soil. You can't just invade American soil like that. It will be met with an armed response. Why don't we do it for India? Secondly, get the faces of all these people in the CCTV coverage and file cases in the courts. File cases in the courts so they spend the rest of their lives running around the courts and in prison. And thirdly, if you want to hire additional security, there are security agencies, very professional abroad. Hire them, spend money. Make sure that our embassies are Khalistani-proof. That is the only word I can use for them. Make sure they are Khalistani-proof, and the Khalistanis need to pay. What are their assets in India? Do we know? What are their assets in India? How are the Khalistanis still managing to hold on to their homes in India? You burn my home in San Francisco, and that is my home. I'm an Indian. Every consulate, every embassy in the world is my home. You burn my home in San Francisco. Why is your house in India still standing? This is a question that I want to ask. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for watching this video. I'll see you again tomorrow with another fresh video. Till then, Jai Hind.